It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome to Blood and Guts presents Creature Features, where we take a look at iconic creature films, some of our favorite monster movies, and just badass movies all around. Some of our favorites. With me, as always, is Lon Chaney's lover, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing great. As always, you can always go back and love Lon Chaney, but I'm also as happy as a zombie that's caught the kid that fell down, because this is going to be a really fun segment. I think the audience is going to dig it as well. Like I said, you can't go wrong, especially with the subject we got tonight.
Yep.
It's something that will speak to a lot of our fans.
Yeah, we got a heavy hitter for you tonight. So tonight we're going to pit two of the greats against each other, kind of do a side-by-side, call it a versus, call it whatever you'd like, but it's Dracula and Frankenstein, two of the heavy-hit Universal monsters.
Yep. And to get us kicked off, Booze and Ghouls, what we got is we have 4 different categories that we're going to kind of touch on. First one's going to be the directors. We have the actors and how they portrayed the role, and the significance today of the characters, like what does the audiences today tend to flock to, or like they relate to.
Yep.
And then overall film, which one we thought was the better film of the two. So kind of kick it off. Adam, I know you wanted to kick us off with Frankenstein and his director, so
Yep.
Go ahead and enlighten us.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about James Whale, the legendary James Whale, who also did The Invisible Man,
Yep.
The Bride, of course, the OG Frankenstein, and several other films to date. Some which being not specifically horror, but James Whale had quite a bit of clout at the Universal with Lumley. I believe, was it Lumley Jr.?
Yep.
I believe it was. Yeah, and so. They wanted him to do Frankenstein, and he kind of turned it into his own thing. He from what I remember reading, he handpicked Karloff to play Frankenstein.
Right.
They were apparently talking, or some kind of meeting happened, and Karloff had been playing a gangster that day or that week, or whatever, and was dressed to the nines in his suit, had his fedora on, I'm assuming, and he kind of came to him and said, I have a part for you. It's he said, it's a damn monster movie. It's going to be a terrifying monster. And Karloff kind of said something along the lines of, oh man, I'm dressed all dapper today. Like, you're going to throw me a monster movie. So, and the legend was born.
Yep.
So
I always think about too. I've seen a documentary on the old Universal movies, and they said that Karloff was not really sold on the idea until he was in the makeup chair with Jack Pierce.
yeah,
Say he was all made up, and he looked, and they say he had kind of like a lisp, and they said this will be the most exciting picture that the world has ever seen. And they knew then, like I said, they knew they had something magical as well. And I know, like I said, James Whale, he did a lot of great stuff. Like I said, Frankenstein, obviously love it.
The
I know
Invisible
we're not
Man.
Invisible Man. I know we're not talking as much too, but Bride of Frankenstein.
Bride, I love Bride.
Fantastic
It's a classic.
movie.
Kind of see the evolution of the creature in that one, and
like I know he did the old Dark House in 1932.
Dark House,
that was a great one as
and
well.
Karloff also plays he's the evil butler.
Yes.
He's got the big beard and all the
Yes.
crazy eyes.
So like we said, he's definitely a heavy hitter when it comes to Universal.
Oh yeah, totally. And let's talk a little bit now about Todd Browning.
Todd Browning. One thing that draws me to Todd Browning is he was always known as the Edgar Allan Poe of directors from that era.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's talking about the mood he created and the macabre of the films he
From
directed.
the silent picture era.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
that was one thing excites me when I talk about him, because he worked a lot hand in hand with Lon Chaney, the legendary Lon Chaney, the man of
Yeah.
1,000 faces. I mean, they created like the Unholy Three, the Mystic. One that really I kind of wish we still had was a lost film, The London After Midnight, that they
Oh
said.
yeah, that was great makeup by Chaney in that one. Too.
Exactly, and I know a few years ago they tried to piece together all the stills they had with the actual plot line for it, and I watched that, and that was really good. But it'd be nice if they actually could find the film in its full form, so we could actually see what frightened audiences back then, because they just wasn't used to seeing things like what we see today,
Yeah.
that we feel like maybe like not that scary as opposed to something you see in real life. They just had never seen something like that, so it really frightened them.
Yeah.
And of course, another one he done with Lon Chaney I love was The Unknown, where he had like no arms and he went into the circus freak and killed the guy that was holding the horses. And I just love that foot coming up with a knife where he's threatening him like, "Hey, you mess with the stage, I'll kill you."
And then Browning did what movie? Freaks, right?
Freaks.
Yeah, Freaks.
He done Freaks, like I said, in Dracula, but Freaks was a really good movie. So he has a long list, and he's another heavy hitter as well. So definitely can't go wrong with either one of them. It's kind of like, which era do you want? If you like the talkies better, I think James Whale's your guy.
Yeah.
If you're a real historian and you want to go back to the silent film era, then I think Todd Browning's one you definitely ought to look up.
Yeah, and he used a lot of silence in the films itself. Like with the Dracula, there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of big panning shots, a lot of sweeping shots to the left and right and stuff. So definitely using that environment to his advantage.
So speaking to that then, and as far as like for this Versus series, in your heart of hearts, and in your opinion, like obviously we all have our opinions on, who would you go with then as your director?
Well, just for me personally, I'm going to have to go with Whale because I love the evolution of Frankenstein, especially in Bride. When you see the teardrop, when he actually kind of speaks a little bit, when he's interacting with some of the characters, and the makeup, the evolution of the makeup as the Frankenstein character. And I believe it was Karloff who even kind of came up with the idea that, the eyelids should be kind of sunken in and the character should look sleepy. So for the ability to have that interaction between Pierce and Karloff to where, Whale was cool enough to be like, just kind of figure this character out on your own. Give it life.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's why I would have to go with Whale on that.
For me, it looks like then we'll be at a draw for this category because I'm gonna go with Browning. I think post Frankenstein, I think Whale done the better job as far as embracing the talking pictures, and I think Todd Browning kind of struggled a little bit. How we talked about with Dracula, there's not as much sound and music in there. But I feel like if we don't recognize what he done in the mid-20s with Lon Chaney, it kind of carried
he was
to
the
that
stepping
point.
stone. It was the stepping stone to the Universal monsters. I mean, and you also include the Phantom in that.
Yes.
And what was the other one he did? Hunchback.
Yep.
With Lon Chaney.
Yep. So like I said, that to me that's where I landed with the draw. So it's one of those where I can see definitely coming with James Whale. If you go with Todd Browning, it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, you kind of get. No matter which way you go, it's a good choice there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll go. The next category then is the actors and how they portrayed the role. I'm gonna kick it off with Bela Lugosi. Obviously, he did a fantastic job with Dracula. Yeah. He had many years of experience in that role because obviously he done the play before, and he had to lobby hard for the role because the studio for the most time just did not want him in that role. They wanted a bigger star. I know they wanted Chaney.
They wanted Chaney at the beginning,
and he passed away.
Yep.
And there was another actor, I can't think of his name off the top of his head, that they tried to secure after him. And it just finally, after he lobbied, wrote letters, just say, "Hey, come watch me in my play," that they finally relented and gave him the role, but it was at a reduced salary.
Yeah, and he was surprised too because he was like, I feel like I'm a shoo-in for the part, and with all that going on, and I would say the only real difference is, of course, doing stage makeup, all your features are exaggerated,
right?
Just so the audience far back can see. Whereas in the film, he had a chance. Well, I mean, he had practice obviously with the Broadway production, but he had practice to hone in those skills, that voice and those mannerisms of Dracula.
Yeah, and obviously he totally nailed it because everybody that's come after him, they're always emulating, like Dracula, the way he speaks,
that Hungarian accent.
Exactly, they're always emulating Bela Lugosi on that, and he obviously got typecast in the role for a little while. Even if he wasn't playing Dracula, he was playing a vampire in a lot of his movies. And even when he passed away, his family had him buried in the Cape. So I mean, that's how much the role stuck with him. So obviously he did a great job. Digressing then, how do you feel about Karloff and his role of Frankenstein?
Oh, Karloff was genius. I mean, to portray the monster, to have the depth of a character who's misunderstood, who doesn't even understand their own surroundings, and then to be tormented for being an outsider. That's a kind of thing that like we can all relate to. And for that character to for Karloff to suggest, okay, so the eyes need to be a little more heavy and sleepy because this character is kind of like in a dreamlike state, like he doesn't know what's going on. And then the body movements, the mannerisms, and in the first film, not really any speaking, or like a grunting or a something like that.
Right, yeah, because it went until Bride whenever he started learning.
So I'm going to have to lean towards Karloff on that one just because of the heavy work. You got the heavy boots, you got the heavy lumbersome costume, and he just kind of took that role and he kind of made it his own. So.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on Karloff on this one. I think he does take this category because, like you said, he has a little bit less to work with than Bela Lugosi. He's got to get through a lot more emotions just through how he's moving his body, his facial features, like how he looks confused, like when he's with the child and they're like throwing the flowers into the water, and whenever they run out of flowers, he don't know what to do, so he just picks up the girl, throws her in.
And that laugh that he does in that scene is very like hollow.
Yes.
But that's what you would expect from an undead creature.
Right.
But he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right, exactly. So I think Karloff totally nailed the role, and obviously James Whale was there with that direction, how we were talking about previously. But I think this category, I'm in agreement. I think this goes to Karloff.
All right.
Let's go to our next category, the significance of today. Like, how do you feel like in this category then, as far as audiences, modern audiences, who are they typically flocking to? We can speak to both characters. Do you want to go ahead and begin with like Frankenstein?
Yeah, Frankenstein's definitely. I mean, anytime you picture a film or a mad scientist, you think of Dr. Frankenstein, and you think of, or maybe you think of Mel Brooks' classic, or you think of some kind of lab set up with the lightning bolts and what are those machines? Those props they had that had the actual lightning inside of them and the electricity going through them. You think about that, and Frankenstein's obviously a pop culture icon, but definitely I feel like Dracula probably holds the candle above that for popular icon. You know what I'm saying? Of pop culture.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. Like I say, I think Frankenstein still holds a place that's near and dear in people's hearts, but I think people kind of draw near to Dracula, and I guess it's like, you think about the lifestyle, you sleep all day, you're out all night.
Yep.
And I typically think, going back to like what we normally talk about, Halloween Horror Nights, anytime there's a house and they bring that Universal house, Dracula always finds his way into that house.
Finds a way in.
Yeah. And like I said, I know that Frankenstein does too, to be fair, but Dracula seems to be more.
Yeah.
And
in media, cartoons, anything like that.
Right.
You have some kind of horror, anything.
Yep.
It's always a Dracula with a cape, maybe a big collar, pale face, and you got the widow's peak. So it's always a throwback to kind of the Lugosi character.
Yeah.
In that.
It's kind of like how Universal's got that movie coming out next month, The Renfield, that looks pretty good with Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, yeah.
And so, like I said, that brings back. You think about when you look at it, you have more adaptions of Dracula than you do of Frankenstein.
And he's even speaking in that kind of strange dialect with the strange hand mannerisms and the movements. So you got that definite throwback to, that was kind of like the stepping stone for the mold of how to portray Dracula.
Yep.
But definitely going to be a big pop culture kind of reference there. So.
Yep. Yeah, I'm totally in agreement. So it looks like this category is going to go to Dracula then. So rounding out then, we have overall quality of the film, like which film holds dear to your heart. So for this category, which one does stick to you? I mean, we can go ahead and speak to both movies, but which one does stick to you and why?
Yeah, for this I'm going to have to go with Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. Just because, you got the gothic settings, you got like I said, the mad scientist. When you picture a mad scientist, you picture that table. You picture the rising and the lightning and it's alive! Yes. It's alive! That's a classic, It references in Weird Science, hundreds and hundreds of times. And then you got this whole gothic imagery, steampunk, before steampunk was a thing, kind of thing. And it's a childlike innocence of Dracula, and you feel, he's a monster.
Right. And you mean Frankenstein, right?
Yeah, Frankenstein,
gotcha.
sorry.
Okay, no, you're good.
Yeah, got him backwards.
Yeah, that happens. Live TV.
And then, live TV, that's right. And then, but you think about the whole set itself and him as a character, where it's just like childlike innocence, but yet he doesn't know why he's tortured. He doesn't know why he's outcast. He's a creature that doesn't belong, kind of thing. And that's what really gets me about those films, especially, like I said, The Bride Part 2, when he actually gets a voice.
Right.
And you see him react a little more. The makeup evolves, everything.
Right. So Roland Frank, I have to agree with you. I think Frankenstein is the better film, at least the one that I go back to more. And it kind of goes to the fact that I think when we're talking about James Whale and handled like speaking pictures. But not only that, like I said, the set designs, the way the shots flow.
Yeah.
Like even when you speak about Dracula, like, you know, back in the day, Universal, they'd film like the English speaking pictures during the day and would film the Spanish versions at night.
Yeah.
And now obviously Lugosi is the one that trumps it because of his performance. But if you actually go from a technical aspect to it, the Spanish picture trumps Dracula, like the English version, like with the sweeping shots. Like you think about when you first see Dracula, and if you hadn't seen it, go look for this shot though. Like in the English version, you just look up and Lugosi's there at the top of the stairs.
Right.
But in the Spanish version, bat flies by Renfield, he's looking down, and then you got a crane shot just swooping in to the top of the stairs, and there's Dracula. And I mean, that's just the way you have an entrance there.
And from what I read too, is they would watch, because they were using the same set, so they would watch the dailies. And they would
be like, how can we do this better?
How can we do this better? Which was great.
But
and as far as the Frankenstein though goes, with it's a reflection of humanity. Mm-hmm. So it actually, you know, spoke to, you know, are you more, you know, relating to the monster, or are you the monster? You know, kind of like.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what. Just touching on villains for a little bit, I do like how Dracula has the villain of Van Helsing, how he comes in, and he's the expert, and that's great, and he does Edward von Sloan does a great job in that role.
Yep.
But I do tend to draw more to Frankenstein because it's a little bit deeper, like you said, because what he's doing, he doesn't know any better. He don't know his own strength. He don't know he's causing chaos.
Yep.
And so he doesn't understand why the villagers are coming at him like he is and looking at him as a monster, because he just does not have that mental capacity to figure out what's going on.
Right.
And just that end scene at the windmill.
The windmill and the fire. And everything. And that whole, you know, having to watch it again, you know, you see that. You kind of see that, you know, they're rushing up the hillside with the torches and the pitchforks and all the things. And you realize, you know, maybe he's not the monster. Maybe we are the monster. And that's a deep dive, you know, and that's a deep inward look at yourself, all the way back, you know, in that time period. So I mean, audiences definitely had to feel that, and kind of.
Yeah, you're thinking like we're coming on now. That movie's 92 years old, but it still speaks volumes of today's society when you sit there and dissect. And both movies are really that way too.
Both movies are great, and they're both heavy hitters.
Yeah, but when we dissect them, it still has themes that really speak to what's going on today and how we can take a deep look at things.
Yeah, like the romanticism of Dracula,
yes.
with the you know, the cape over the face and the hand movements, and it's kind of he's seducing these women, he's luring them in, and then you got the Frankenstein who's misunderstood, you know. So there's definitely, as far back as then, even plays on, you know, crazy emotions that we all feel still today, you know, even stronger, maybe more,
right?
But, you know.
So, hey, Bulls and Ghouls, that does it for this episode here. Do you agree with our picks? Do you like our analysis of the movie? Which one speaks to you? Let us know in the comments, because we love to hear from you. Like I said, it doesn't hurt our feelings if somebody has a different perspective. So don't come at us with those torches and pitchforks, because
don't come after us.
Have that opinion.
This is just our opinions.
Exactly. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. Like I said, because we have a great time bringing you this content.
Yep, and be sure to check out our socials. We'll leave those that information at the end of the video there. And as always, we're going to bring you some more of these creature feature videos. We're going to talk about some icons, some more monsters. We're going to talk about some B Sci Fi. We're going to talk
deep dives into movies. Yep.
Oh yeah, deep dives, B Sci Fi, all that good stuff. So remember to stay tuned for the next creature feature.